The year was 1998, a year that would be etched into the memories of many, a year that would change the lives of countless families forever. It was a time when the world seemed to be on the brink of chaos, and nowhere was this more evident than in the remote regions of Myanmar. The sound of gunfire echoed through the valley. It was a haunting symphony that played day and night, a constant reminder of the violence that had become a part of daily life. The once serene and tranquil valleys were now battlegrounds where the echoes of conflict reverberated through the mountains and forests. This was a familiar sound in the Shan state of Myanmar. The dense jungles and rugged terrain had become the backdrop for a brutal and unending conflict. The people of Shan state had grown accustomed to the sounds of war, but the fear and uncertainty it brought never diminished. For decades, the Burmese military junta had waged war against the Shan people, their land soaked in the blood of innocents. The military's relentless campaigns had left a trail of destruction and despair, with villages burned to the ground and families torn apart. The land itself seemed to cry out in pain, its once fertile soil now stained with the blood of its people. Among those caught in the crossfire was the Ong family. They were just one of many families who had been forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The Ongs had once lived a peaceful life, their days filled with the simple joys of family and community. But now, they were refugees in their own land, constantly on the move, always looking over their shoulders. Their lives, once peaceful and filled with the vibrant culture of the Shan, were now shrouded in fear and uncertainty. The rich traditions and customs that had defined their identity were now distant memories, overshadowed by the daily struggle for survival. The Ong family clung to each other, their bond the only source of strength in these dark times. The jungle, once a source of life and sustenance, was now their only escape route, a treacherous path to the safety of Thailand. The dense foliage provided cover from the prying eyes of the military, but it also hid countless dangers. Every step was fraught with peril, as they navigated the unforgiving terrain, hoping to reach the border and the promise of refuge. The air hung heavy with humidity and the stench of fear. The oppressive heat and the constant threat of discovery weighed heavily on their minds. The jungle was alive with the sounds of nature, but to the Ong family, every rustle and chirp was a potential sign of danger. They moved silently, their senses heightened, every nerve on edge. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent shivers down their spines. The jungle was a living entity, its dense canopy and thick underbrush concealing both friend and foe. The Ong family knew that they were not alone in this vast wilderness, and the fear of the unknown was a constant companion. They were not alone in this green abyss. Other families, other refugees were also making the perilous journey, each with their own stories of loss and survival. The jungle was a refuge for the desperate, a place where the lines between life and death were blurred. The Ong family found solace in the knowledge that they were not alone, but the fear of being discovered never left them. Whispers followed their every move. The jungle seemed to be alive with the voices of the past, the spirits of those who had perished in the conflict. These whispers were a constant reminder of the fragility of life, and the Ong family could not escape the feeling that they were being watched. Whispers of the spirits that resided within the jungle, spirits born of the countless lives lost in this conflict-ridden land. The Ong family felt the weight of these lost souls, their presence a constant reminder of the cost of war. As they pressed on, they carried with them the hopes and dreams of those who had come before, determined to find a future free from fear and violence. The decision to flee had been agonizing but necessary. U Ong, the patriarch, a man weathered by years of struggle, led his family with stoic determination. His wife, Dao Yin, her face etched with worry, clutched their youngest, a baby girl named Mi Cha, close to her chest. Their two sons, Mong and Ong Min, their young eyes wide with fear, followed closely behind. The jungle floor was a treacherous maze of tangled roots and hidden crevasses. The air was thick with the buzzing of insects and the cries of nocturnal creatures. They moved like phantoms, their footsteps muffled by the damp earth. Each step was a prayer, a plea to the spirits of the jungle to grant them safe passage. Days turned into nights. Fatigue gnawed at their bodies and minds. The constant fear was a heavy weight on their souls. One evening, as they huddled under the meager shelter of a giant banyan tree, they heard voices, Burmese soldiers, Panic seized them. Oong, his heart pounding in his chest, made a split-second decision. He had heard tales of soldiers accepting bribes. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was their only hope. He approached the soldiers cautiously, his hands held high. His voice, hoarse from days of travel and fear, pleaded for their mercy. He offered them all the money he had, a meager sum that represented their life savings. To their immense relief, the soldiers, their faces illuminated by cigarettes, accepted the bribe. They were allowed to pass. Section 4. Whispers in the Dark, the Jungle's Embrace. The encounter with the soldiers, though terrifying, had given them a sliver of hope. The soldiers, with their cautious movements and wary eyes, seemed to be as much a part of the jungle as the trees and vines. Their presence, though unsettling, was a reminder that they were not alone in this vast, oppressive wilderness. Perhaps they would make it out of this nightmare alive. The soldiers' hopeful expressions, though fleeting, were a beacon of light in the darkness. They clung to the possibility of survival, even as the jungle seemed to close in around them. But the jungle had other plans. The dense foliage and ominous shadows seemed to whisper secrets of their own, as if the jungle itself was alive and aware of their presence. It was a living, breathing entity, and it had no intention of letting them go easily. As they continued their journey, the air grew colder, heavy with an unseen presence. The mist that clung to the ground seemed to swirl with a life of its own, wrapping around their legs and making each step a struggle. The cold seeped into their bones, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in every shadow. Strange whispers seemed to emanate from the undergrowth, whispers they couldn't understand but felt in the marrow of their bones. These whispers were not just sounds, they were a presence, an unseen force that seemed to watch their every move. It was as if the jungle itself was speaking to them, warning them of the perils that lay ahead. One evening, they stumbled upon a clearing. The sudden openness was a stark contrast to the claustrophobic jungle they had been navigating. It was a brief respite, a moment of calm in the midst of chaos. At first glance it seemed peaceful, bathed in the ethereal glow of the moon. The soft light cast long shadows, creating an almost magical atmosphere. For a moment they allowed themselves to believe that they had found a safe haven. But as they stepped into the clearing, their blood ran cold. The peaceful facade shattered, replaced by a sense of impending doom. The air grew thick with tension, and every instinct screamed at them to turn back. Scattered across the clearing were the skeletal remains of people, their bones picked clean and bleached white by the sun. The sight was a grim reminder of the jungle's unforgiving nature. These were not just bones, they were the remnants of lives lost, dreams shattered, and stories left untold. The remnants of their clothes suggested they were Shan, victims of the ongoing conflict. The tattered fabric, clinging to the bones, told a story of struggle and despair. It was a stark reminder of the human cost of the conflict, and the jungle's role as both a refuge and a graveyard. Section 5. The Spirits Among Us, Help or Hindrance. The sight of the dead, a grim reminder of the horrors they were fleeing, filled them with a primal fear. Each step they took seemed to echo with the cries of the lost souls, their presence a constant reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. The forest, once a place of refuge, now felt like a living entity, watching their every move. The whispers intensified, swirling around them like a malevolent wind. They felt watched, hunted. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down their spines. The air was thick with tension, and the darkness seemed to close in on them, suffocating and relentless. It was as if the forest itself was alive, breathing down their necks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They were deep in the heart of the jungle now, far from any known paths. The dense foliage and uncharted trails made every step a challenge. The deeper they went, the more they felt the weight of the jungle's ancient presence. It was a place untouched by time, where the spirits of the past roamed freely, guarding their secrets and their sorrows. They were lost, at the mercy of the jungle and its unseen inhabitants. The once familiar sounds of nature now felt foreign and threatening. The chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, all seemed to be part of a larger, more sinister symphony. They could feel the eyes of the jungle upon them, judging, waiting. One night, as they huddled around a small fire, desperately trying to find comfort in its warmth, they saw them. The flickering flames cast long shadows, dancing eerily on the trees around them. The fire, their only source of light and warmth, felt like a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. It was then that the figures appeared, emerging from the shadows like wraiths. Shadowy figures flitting through the trees, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. These were not mere illusions, they were real, tangible. The glow of their eyes pierced through the darkness, sending chills down the spines of those who saw them. It was as if the very essence of the jungle had come to life, manifesting in these spectral forms. The children cowered in fear, but Oolong felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. While the others trembled, he felt a connection, a bond with these spirits. It was as if they were trying to communicate, to convey a message that only he could understand. The fear that gripped the others seemed to dissipate in him, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. These were the spirits of the jungle, the spirits of his ancestors, the spirits of those who had perished in this unforgiving land. They were not here to harm, but to guide. Oolong realized that the jungle, with all its mysteries and dangers, was also a place of wisdom and protection. The spirits were there to help them, to show them the way, if only they could understand and respect the ancient ways. Section 6. The Final Standoff. Fear and faith intertwined. The spirits, their forms shifting and swirling in the darkness, seemed to be guiding them, leading them along unseen paths. Yet, danger was never far behind. One morning they found themselves face to face with another patrol of Burmese soldiers, their faces grim, their rifles at the ready. This time there was no bribing their way out. They were outnumbered, outgunned. Just when all hope seemed lost, the wind picked up, howling through the trees like a banshee. The soldiers turned, their faces contorted in fear, their rifles dropping from their grasp. The spirits had intervened. Section 7. Freedom's Dawn, a New Beginning. The soldiers scattered, their cries lost in the cacophony of the wind and the rustling leaves. The Ong family stood there, trembling, caught between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits. As quickly as it had started, the wind died down, the jungle falling silent once more. The spirits were gone, their presence lingering in the air like the fading scent of incense. They continued their journey, their steps lighter now, their hearts filled with a cautious hope. After what seemed like an eternity, they emerged from the jungle, blinking in the bright sunlight. Before them lay the Moe River, the border between Myanmar and Thailand. Freedom was within reach.